When Julian stood atop the glass podium in the central atrium, clutching his gold-trimmed espresso cup and shouting that I was terminated effective immediately, the entire headquarters fell into an uneasy, stunned silence. As I quietly handed him my master set of security fobs, the very ones I had used for 12 years to maintain the firm's digital firewalls and encrypted server vaults, he smirked under the impression that he was removing a simple facilities manager, utterly oblivious to the legal weight tied to my credentials. He was the founder's arrogant son, gifted the chief executive role through sheer nepotism after his father stepped down, and he immediately set out to purge the company's long-standing operational veterans. Instead of pleading for my job or making a scene, I gathered my belongings, walked out to my car, and pulled open the heavy leather ledger that contained every compliance filing and infrastructure protocol I had officially overseen since the company's inception. Unknown to Julian, my signature was hard-coded into every regulatory filing, Federal Data Protection Seal, and Tier 1 vendor contract as the sole authorized custodian of record. 5 years prior, the original founder had legally named me as the singular human fail-safe required to recertify our entire multi-million-dollar network framework, meaning my abrupt termination effectively locked the company out of its own legal compliance mechanisms. Back in my home office, I systematically called key contacts at our external cloud hosts, identity verification vendors, and cybersecurity agencies to formally notify them that I was no longer employed to approve critical system overrides. Each vendor immediately froze the enterprise, dashboard updates and access permissions, causing the corporate network to default into an unyielding, high-security lockdown state while the automated systems waited for a non-existent authorization token. By the next morning, the grand illusion of Julian's modern operational vision began to splinter into absolute chaos before the workday even properly started. Over 300 employees were left standing outside the building in the freezing rain because the primary badge readers required my physical administrative clearance to issue new encrypted credentials. Inside the corporate suite, the executive team watched helplessly as automated payroll systems threw critical verification errors, unable to release direct deposits without my secondary hardware authentication key. Desperate to maintain control, Julian attempted to bypass protocol by abruptly firing the senior IT director, replacing him with a college fraternity friend who promptly crashed the internal DNS servers while trying to force a manual override. Meanwhile, I had already accepted a lucrative chief strategy role at Vanguard Sentinel, an industry competitor that recognized my institutional knowledge and compliance authority within minutes of reading my resume. Sitting in a sunlit corner office overlooking the city skyline, I watched from afar as Julian's ill-advised hubris triggered a cascading domino effect of corporate paralysis. Federal auditors flagged the firm's sudden lack of an authorized records custodian, immediately freezing 3 major government supply contracts that required active oversight compliance. Every attempt made by the corporate legal team to retroactively transfer my administrative privileges was rejected by automated regulatory algorithms, which detected the absence of an official offboarding verification protocol. The breaking point arrived during high-stakes merger negotiations with a global logistics partner, whose legal representatives demanded an immediate audit of the firm's cybersecurity framework. When the audit revealed that all encryption tokens were permanently registered under an improperly terminated employee, the partner immediately suspended the $200 million transaction. Panicked, Julian hosted an emergency corporate all-hands meeting where he foolishly blamed legacy staff for setting up archaic, overly complicated compliance systems. Unbeknownst to him, the board of directors was simultaneously receiving an urgent memorandum from the general counsel detailing how his public display in the atrium had directly jeopardized the firm's legal existence. The following morning, my phone buzzed with an urgent voice message from the chairman of the board, politely begging for a private meeting to discuss an immediate advisory retainer. I listened to the recording twice while calmly drinking my morning tea, taking my time before deciding whether I would even entertain their desperate plea. When I finally returned the call, I made it abundantly clear that my consulting rates were 5 times my previous salary and that any operational advisory would require Julian's complete removal from executive authority. Realizing they had no alternative to prevent structural bankruptcy, the board voted unanimously that afternoon to strip Julian of his CEO title and relegate him to a powerless advisory role. The next day, I returned to the campus not as an employee being publicly humiliated, but as an indispensable external advisor stepping in to restore order to a broken kingdom. Walking past the bewildered junior staff who had watched my public firing, I unlocked the central server closet with my newly reissued root access credentials and brought the company back online. Julian watched from behind the glass wall of a secondary office as the systems smoothly reactivated, finally learning the harsh lesson that true authority lies in competence rather than loudly asserted power. By refusing to break the rules and simply stepping back to let the system enforce itself, I demonstrated that an enterprise cannot survive when it destroys the very foundation holding it upright.